When you focus on yourself and stay silent, everything falls into place. Most people lose their power by giving it away, explaining, proving, reacting. But silence is strength. When you stop explaining yourself to the world and start focusing on yourself, everything shifts. You begin to move with clarity. Your energy sharpens and the world starts responding. Not because you forced it, but because your presence demands it. Stay silent. Stay grounded. Focus inward and you'll realize the more still you become, the more everything around you begins to align. Energy containment. You will lose yourself if you keep giving yourself to everyone. If your attention belongs to the world, you no longer belong to yourself. And most people don't even realize it because it happens quietly, slowly, one text at a time, one apology at a time, one distraction at a time, until one day they wake up tired, anxious, resentful, and they don't know why. But the reason is simple. Their life is being lived for everyone else. Their time, their energy, their emotions given away to people who don't even value their own. When your energy is scattered, so is your direction, so is your discipline, so is your soul, because you can't be everywhere for everyone and still be anchored within yourself. Most people live in reaction. They react to messages, to moods, to the opinions of strangers, to obligations they never questioned, to conversations that drain them. From the moment they wake up, their mind is on someone else's agenda. They check their phone before they check their breath. They respond to the world before they've returned to themselves. And so their thoughts aren't theirs. Their priorities aren't theirs. Their feelings aren't theirs. They are puppets pulled by invisible strings, trying to keep everyone else satisfied while quietly losing their own strengths. And that's why they feel empty. That's why they feel exhausted. That's why they burn out. Not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because they've been leaking energy for years, giving themselves away in small, constant, unconscious ways. And here's the truth that most don't want to admit. You cannot build anything if you're constantly being pulled away from yourself. You cannot lead. You cannot create. You cannot command. You cannot heal if every time you find your rhythm, you're interrupted by someone else's chaos. You need focus. You need space. You need silence. Not because you're selfish, but because you're serious. The first real discipline is learning how to hold your energy, not just physically, energetically, mentally, emotionally. That means you stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes to feel needed. You stop overextending yourself for those who treat their life like a mess and expect you to clean it up. You learn to say no without guilt. You learn to be quiet without apology. You learn to protect your morning like it's your mission because it is. You stop being so available, not because you're cold, but because you finally realized your energy is currency and you've been spending it on the wrong things. This is the shift. You stop chasing connection and you start honoring direction. You return to your breath. You sit in your body. You make conscious decisions instead of emotional reactions. You start moving through life with presence, not performance. And yes, the world will misunderstand you. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to pull you back into their drama. But let them talk. You're not here to be consumed by the chaos. You're here to become something clear, something sharp, something focused. You're here to build a life that belongs to you, not to everyone else's needs. This is not selfish. This is survival. This is sovereignty. And the moment you start protecting your energy like your life depends on it, you'll realize it always did. Quiet power. Powerful people don't speak much, not because they have nothing to say, but because they know exactly when to say it. In a world that rewards noise, volume, and visibility, the truly powerful move in silence. Their presence alone says what others try to explain in 1,000 words. Words are cheap. They can be borrowed, repeated, manipulated. But presence is expensive. It must be earned, built, lived. And when it's real, when a person's energy is fully aligned with their purpose, they no longer need to talk about it. They move differently. They enter a room and something shifts. Not because of what they say, but because of who they are. The louder someone speaks, the less they usually control. It's not hard to spot. You see it in the one who constantly interrupts, constantly postures, constantly needs to be the smartest, the funniest, the most noticed. That's not confidence. That's fear wearing a mask. Because real strength doesn't chase approval. It doesn't need to perform. It doesn't shout to be heard. It exists with such depth that silence becomes more powerful than sound. You can feel this when a man walks into the room and doesn't say a word yet everyone notices. That's not charisma. That's alignment. He knows himself. He governs himself. And because of that, the world slows down when he arrives. Weak people always need to be seen, to be heard, to be liked. Their words are constant because their identity is uncertain. But the one who has cultivated stillness, who has trained his attention, mastered his energy, owned his path, doesn't waste a single syllable. He doesn't try to prove he's in control. He is in control and everyone feels it. This is the paradox. The less you need attention, the more you get it. Not because you're trying to attract anyone, but because the human nervous system is wired to seek leadership, stability, direction. And we find that not in noise, but in the energy of someone who speaks only when it counts. Start watching your words like you watch your money. Don't spend them everywhere. Don't pour them into people who haven't earned your attention. Don't use them to fill silence just because you're uncomfortable. Speak when it matters. Speak when it serves. Speak not to be liked, but to be clear. The most powerful sentence is the one that doesn't need to be followed by a justification, a clean no, a sharp instruction, a brief observation. That's how leadership sounds. Not with fluff, but with weight. And that weight doesn't come from volume. It comes from alignment between your words and your life. When people know you mean what you say, you don't need to say it twice. Most people speak to be liked. Trained men speak to direct. They speak from stillness, not insecurity. And when they're done speaking, they return to movement, intentional, grounded movement. This rhythm of silence, clarity, precision is what creates influence that lasts. It's not built on hype, it's not built on charm, it's built on trust. And trust is built when people know you don't need them to validate you. That's when they start listening, really listening. because they're not responding to your performance. They're responding to your essence. And your essence doesn't need noise. This kind of power doesn't come from theory. It comes from discipline, from saying less, from observing more, from removing the need to explain your every move, from knowing exactly where you stand, and refusing to move for attention. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you train your system. Every time you speak only what's needed, your words grow heavier. And over time, people lean in when you talk not out of habit, but out of respect. Because you've shown them something rare. Restraint in a world of access. That energy of silence and certainty is what turns chaos into clarity. It's what cuts through noise. It's what commands a room without trying, not because you're the loudest, but because you're the clearest. And clarity is magnetic. Presence is remembered. Words, they fade, but presence that stays. Inner mastery. You'll never win the world until you master your inner state. That's the law. And no matter how many books you read, people you impress, or goals you chase, nothing will change that truth. Control doesn't begin outside. It begins inside where no one sees. The world teaches you to chase control through money, recognition, attraction, status. But what good is any of it if your mind is filled with chaos? If your emotions are reactive, if your confidence disappears, the moment something doesn't go your way. External success without internal sovereignty is just noise, and the world is already full of it. Real power is silent. It's internal order. It's the clarity of a man who has faced his own mind and didn't flinch. If your thoughts control you, if your mood owns your behavior, if every piece of criticism makes you shrink, you haven't yet earned leadership. You haven't yet become the man the world or any woman can truly trust. Because mastery is not the result of force. It's the result of cleaning your inner house, sitting in silence until your own patterns surface, observing the impulses, the insecurity, the addiction to noise, and instead of reacting, you breathe. You remain. You learn how to hold your fire without letting it burn everything down. And when you finally choose silence, something strange happens. Not right away, not dramatically, but deeply. You begin to see yourself. Not the version you perform, not the mask you've worn to get by, but the raw version. The one you've ignored through distraction, the one that never got your full attention. And in that moment, if you choose to stay instead of run, everything changes. You stop blaming, you stop justifying, you stop escaping, you face what is. And in doing so, you begin to become the man you were always meant to be. Not because the world gave you permission, but because you took responsibility. Full, ruthless personal responsibility. The world is chaotic, loud, fast, aggressive. But you don't need to match that noise. You don't need to become louder to be heard. You don't need to become more intense to be taken seriously. You only need to rise above it. Not by dominance, but by awareness. The man who can remain still while others panic, he leads. The man who speaks slowly while others shout, he influences. The man who watches his own mind before judging others, he understands. This kind of power is invisible to the untrained but undeniable to the few who feel it. When you focus on yourself with full intensity, when you treat your inner world like sacred ground, you begin to take back control. Your posture changes. not as an act, but as a reflection of new alignment. You walk differently, you breathe differently. Your thoughts sharpen, not because you're trying to be impressive, but because you've cleared the fog. The weight you've been carrying isn't lifted by more ambition, it's lifted by more truth. And truth only comes when you're willing to stop running from your own silence. That's the shift. You stop begging for peace. You stop looking for validation. You stop chasing calm. You start becoming it. You carry it with you. People notice it. Women feel it not because you've said a word, but because your nervous system is speaking first. And that kind of energy changes rooms. It changes relationships. It changes outcomes. Master your breath. Master your attention. Master your reactions. Not once daily. Not perfectly consistently. That's how you earn inner command. And when you earn that, everything external starts to fall into place. Not because life gets easier, but because you're no longer wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You stop reacting to the world. You start directing it. And that's when you win quietly. Sacred silence. Silence is the greatest filter you will ever know. Not because it punishes others, but because it purifies your life. When you go silent, when you stop over-explaining, stop over-giving, stop over-showing, something powerful happens. The noise falls away, fake people leave, weak habits fall off, the masks around you start to crack, and the truth underneath it all begins to surface. You don't even need to call anyone out. You don't need to start arguments. You don't need to explain your distance. Just stop talking. Stop feeding what doesn't feed you. Stop chasing conversations that drain you. Stop proving yourself to people who don't even see you. That's the beauty of silence. It reveals everything. It separates the ones who were there for your energy from the ones who were there for your benefits. It shows you who respected your presence and who only tolerated you because of what you gave them. And once the performing ends, so do the illusions.